Owen Liquid Nitrogen, he wants to know, what does he feel about people still talking to his brother after all these years?
It makes me feel like he's still here. It brings a lot of comfort to me. It brings a lot of pride to me. Yo, what's good, YouTube? Welcome to my YouTube channel and back for popular demand. Fourth time lucky, my interview with Coach Craig. Let's fucking get it. I'll start off nice and first to break the ice. I got a question for you.
All right.
Firstly, I just want to say, does HTLT pre-workout actually give you an itchy asshole? And my boy and me and Alex, like we tried it, bro. We actually had a mad chest session and we were absolutely fucked. So firstly, kudos to a great pre-workout. And secondly, maybe you just wanted to plug that or speak about that for a little bit, because I was introduced to it by my boy Alex just like, only a few weeks ago. And I had one of the best chest sessions I've had in a long time. So do you want to talk about that product a little bit?
Sure.
And,
yeah, well, basically all pre-workouts are pretty much the same, really. They usually have some kind of a stimulant, caffeine, etc. And then they have some pump. Well, I'll get into that, but they have a stimulant effect, so that gets you amped up, like caffeine or whatever stimulates you. That's one thing. Then there's usually some kind of a pump ingredient to help you get the pump. And then beta alanine is completely different. It's something that's going to improve more so your cardiovascular performance, anything perhaps a minute or longer, or if you're doing a lot of sets and you're not resting as much between sets, or you're doing a drop set, 4 set, that's where it helps. You get those tingles from the
Did you have beta alanine in there? Because I can't remember, but all I remember is we were training for a fucking long time. And I don't normally lift heavy these days when I'm training upper body or chest. But dude, I was going pound for pound with Alex, and he's 22, you know what I mean? So, and I was pumping it. Well, how heavy did we get on the chest presses?
40 plus to 50.
Well, 50 kilos on the inclines, and it was good. So I mean, I really enjoyed it. The taste was good. Great job on that too, which leads me further. I wanted to actually talk to you about Turkestarone and all the hype around Turkestarone, because I've got a lot of followers as well, a lot of young guys that want to use Turkestarone, and obviously they don't want to use Sarms yet. They're around the ages 14 to 16, and which I'll get onto later. I'll want to talk to you about your opinion on Sarms and all that. So what would you what age groups would you recommend Turkestarone for? And essentially, what is Turkestarone? Because I've got a very basic understanding of what it is and how it works and what it does. And who would you recommend it to?
Well, I'll start off by saying these 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, all these kids, teenagers, they shouldn't be using this. And I'm not saying that because it's dangerous. I'm saying that because they're so young, they're going to make gains anyway. And this is not the way. You have to maximize your progress naturally and then take other things that help you build more muscle later in your life when you're older. If you get all your gains at a young age, then what are you going to do when you turn 20? So I would highly discourage any teenager from taking Turkestarone. It's natural. I mean, it's on WADA's watch list, so it may or may not be natural in the future, but it's not something I would take. It's not dangerous. In fact, I believe it's much safer to take Turkestarone than a pre-workout. I don't know anyone that's dying from Turkestarone, but I know that people, if you overdo caffeine, overdo pre-workout, you could actually have heart problems. It can be slightly dangerous. So to me, pre-workout, much more dangerous.
It's the same with pre-workout, really. Some of the stronger pre-workouts back in my time, back even in your time when we had the Jack, the Mesomorph, the 1MR, when they had the 1,3 Dimension and the DMA, that shit was making people drop like flies, not even just bodybuilders, dude. There'd be cyclists and wrestlers and boxers taking those pre-workouts, just dropping dead from heart attacks, and these blokes in their mid-20s, early 30s. So I get what you're saying, from a safety standpoint. But as we know, there's a lot of young kids now that just want the results now. They don't want to put in the work. They don't want to wait, and enjoy the journey over time. Me personally, myself, dude, I started using performance-enhancing drugs and steroids when I was 22 years old. So I started bodybuilding when I was 18, and from 18 to 22, I kept it completely natural. And then at 22, almost 23 is when I did my first test cycle. So I look back to that time, Greg, and honestly, I'm forever grateful that I waited just at least to that age, to the minimum of that age. If I could actually go back, probably would have waited even longer to 24, 25 to actually, use injectables and all that. But I'm happy to say that because now there's kids these days that are 17, 18 that are wanting to inject. wanting to use high doses of roids, and it baffles my mind. Like I get it, I understand. Like I do. Like I was once young too, wanting everything so soon, so quick. But as you get older, you kind of realize it's like, shit, man. Like health is so fucking important, and there's like a law of diminishing returns and a ceiling that you hit if you start, enhancing way too soon. You're not going to get that quality muscle, that dense quality muscle through hard work. And you can see the differences in the physiques, the ones that are enhanced really, really young and the ones that are enhanced a bit later in their mid to early 20s, unless I feel like unless you're going to be an IFBB pro or something like that, it's best to steer clear until at least 22, 23. What would your take? When did you start, bro? Like what age were you when you started?
I was in my early 30s and I had already been training. Yeah, I did 42 natural competitions. But I think for me, I had it easy because when I was younger, it wasn't easily accessible. I came from a small town. It wasn't like anyone was doing it. There was maybe one guy that was using steroids. And it was like, oh my goodness. But nowadays you can type on Google Sarms and you can get it at your door. There was no Sarms when I was a kid. There was none of this stuff. There was no, I couldn't even get a protein bar. The protein powder, I wasn't even using that. It was like, you had to do everything on your own. There was no Walden Farms. There was no sweeteners. It was just salt and pepper and eat. And you didn't have the internet to really tell you what to do. So I was like, I would say fortunate because I was kind of like not exposed to this. So for me, it was easy. I was 100% against steroids at 22. I was like, I can't believe people are doing this. Completely changed my mind years later. Obviously, after I hit my natural genetic limit, I'm like, well, I'm not gaining any more muscle. I may as well do this. I want to get an IFBB pro card. And so that's when I went on. And so that's why I was able to keep getting bigger and bigger into my older age.
I looked back at some of your contest photos and your competing photos. And honestly, that kind of like interested me the most, man, because at the moment, like I'm competing as well. And I want to get to that.
4 weeks out roughly or
4.5 weeks out, man. Yeah. So I'm starting to feel it now. You know what I mean? I'm feeling the hunger. But I wanted to know, Greg, if you have any tips or tricks, or if you could share your wisdom on the best ways to get absolutely fucking stage shredded, because I'll tell you what, like I'm probably sitting around 7.5% body fat. I know you see my stories. I watch you see my stories, and I've seen you support me by liking my photos, and I appreciate that. And I just want to know from an older gentleman to myself, like what can I do to maximize my shreds leading into this competition? I came second in my last one. I'm really looking to secure that pro card with the WBFF. And my problem is, Greg, is I always have a hard time dialing in my legs to match my upper body conditioning. Like I know they're always the last for me to come in, and everyone has fat distributions in different places. But for me, they're always the last place to go in. So if there's any tips or tricks or any wisdom that you could share of what you did over the years of your competing career to get your legs fucking diced, I would much appreciate it, my guy. So share away with me.
Well, we actually share similar physiques. When I was in my 20s and whatnot, my legs, the last thing to get ripped. I had the great abs, the six pack,
so annoying,
everything perfect. Well, for me, I was like, this is great. Who cares about the legs so much? Really, it was only the last thing on a stage. It really mattered. But, on the beach and whatnot, the abs was more important. So I was kind of fortunate. So I was very easy to get my abs ripped. But the thing is, if you get lean enough, you're going to be ripped everywhere. And what you've done, I think, is the right thing. You're not bulking up hardcore in the off season. You're not fat. You're not carrying 50 extra pounds. You have to lose weight. And so you're doing so, and you've got 4 weeks. And so what you really need to do is just do a lot of cardio. The more calories you burn, the more you're going to be able to get shredded. It's all about the calorie deficit. If you get 1,000 calorie deficit a day, you're going to lose 2 pounds of fat a week. That's a lot, probably more than you need to lose. And then the last thing you need to do, it's the ever important peak week. It's unbelievable how much you can change in the last week, even the last 3 days, night and day. You can look like you dieted for 2 or 3 weeks in 3 days if you do the proper peak week, which is basically you cut out your carbs, just dehydrate yourself completely by drinking a ton of water, cutting out your carbs. So you eat a lot of fats and protein. And then eventually you're just going to cut out all your water and just carb up and go in dehydrated. And unfortunately, to get that shredded shrink wrap look around the legs, abs everywhere, you have to be dehydrated. You can't expect to look full and shredded at the same time. It's just not going to happen. You kind of have to pick one or the other. So when I competed and I did all my natural shows, I always went for, I'm going to go leaner rather than going for that fuller look. So I cut out my water, got more dehydrated, and I looked leaner. The only problem is if you go too far, you can get some cramping. That's not, that's never fun. You got to be careful. So You can't cut out all your sodium, potassium. You need to carb up and you still need to eat all that. And if you notice you're cramping, you have to consume a little bit of water. And when I say cut out your water, I'm not saying like a day or two. I'm talking like, 12 to 18 hours before you're on stage, just enough. And for you, I would suggest you probably should be taking a diuretic, couple diuretics, safe. You don't want to use Lasix.
Recommend like a herbal diuretic or a mod diuretic, like a pharmaceutical diuretic?
I don't want to promote and say, you should all be using drugs and whatnot, but I would have taken hydrochloroside with triamterene. It's basically for high blood pressure. And I'm not telling you out there, don't go and do this, but that's what I've done.
Guys,
and if you're trying to get shredded
this
for one day,
guys, this like disclaimer, guys, like we're going to say a whole bunch of shit. And this is just, leading on from my life experience, from Greg's life experience, what we do with ourselves. Don't try this if you're not in this industry, if you're not doing this, like, you know what I mean? We've had years of experience and that's all I'm saying, you know what I mean? Like, I do what I do for myself and I'm not out there to tell anyone like to do what I'm doing. I'm just like to be very transparent, as are you, my guy, in our approaches to our bodybuilding and what we do. Because as we know in this industry, dude, everyone's a fucking liar, dude. There's fake natties running rampant. There's people out there that are just claiming like, I take this supplement, I take that, I don't use anything. It's so blatant and obvious to see. And I think the big appeal with your audience and my audience, and even my dear late brother's Aziz's audience, is that we're always very transparent about what we did, whether it was in our favor or not. And I'm sure you probably experienced this too. Just being transparent and open has accrued the fan base that we have and the respect that we get in the industry. And there should be more of that, to be honest. More people should be able to speak at this, because these kids and these young guys, they're still going to fucking do it. So why don't we educate them and teach them and then let them make their informed decisions on their own, rather than just sweeping it under the rug and then lying to everyone, and giving people false hope.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power. And I mean, these diuretics can make you look leaner on that day, but it's very dangerous. It's more dangerous than the steroids themselves, in my opinion. You see a lot of people dropping dead the day of the show. Use the wrong ingredients. You take too much of it. There's certain kinds that are more dangerous than others, like Lasix going to be a lot more dangerous than this one. Don't overdo it and be safe. And, when I did 42 shows, realize I did them natural 42 times, dehydrating all this without the drugs. And then I got into it. So I already knew my body. If you're doing your first show and you're going to use diuretics, you don't know what you're doing, you might go too far and you might, go past the point of no return.
So I've never personally dropped my water, but in saying that, my coach is looking after my peak week and what I'm doing. So I'm just leaving my trust in his hands. And, I will keep that in mind for my preps and my future preps leading forward, to get that crispy, dry look. So I appreciate that, my guy.
Well, let me just end that by saying, like, look, we're trying to be at the peak of our sport. You're trying to win a pro card here. I mean,
yeah, dude. I ain't coming for fucking second place, bro. I'm coming to fucking win.
Exactly. Any sport where you're trying to push your limits to be the best that you can be. I don't care what it is. I've competed in biking, running, swimming, triathlons. I've been in so many different races where people have collapsed in a triathlon, in a running race, and been taken to ambulance, multiple people, especially in hot weather. It's not more people collapsing in bodybuilding than in running. I've seen way more people collapse from dehydration during triathlons than I've seen on a bodybuilding stage, but it can happen. So the danger is there. So I just want to say, like, just even if you're trying to do things healthy and natural, doesn't mean there's no chance of getting injured.
Of course, because any sport, Greg, when it's done to an excess, it oversees the point of healthiness. Like, you got to understand, guys, like you're bodybuilding, you're eating clean, cool. Like, if you keep it very basic, but anything that's done to a level of extreme is never going to be healthy for the long term. It's not. That's just the reality. And people need to know that so they can make their own decisions,
Absolutely. And a question from my audience, we asked them, there's so many people wrote in, thousands of people. Fighter Craft 4. He would like to know, who Aziz like as a person, aside from all his portrayed online persona. So what is he really like as a person? Not what we've seen, but behind closed doors, being his brother, knowing him in person. Like, what was he really like?
I love that question because it's very easy for me to answer that. The Ziz persona, much like the chest prop persona, was just an act for social media. We created these characters, and Aziz created Ziz to be his perfect representation of who he wanted to be and who he played up to be for his perceived stereotype based on his appearance. So he knew he had the appearance to be able to woo in and draw in the crowd. So he played on that. But essentially, Aziz, outside of Aziz, was a massive fucking geek. He was quirky, he was weird, he was awkward, he was funny, he was shy, he had insecurities like you and me and you know, Tom, Dick, and Harry. It was just a normal kid. If anything, he was a really, really quirky kid that just loved to play video games or sit on his computer all night. Contrary to popular belief and misconceptions, he actually wasn't that much of a party boy. Like, the thing is, like, the party footage that he would record were very limited, man. And he actually took his bodybuilding quite seriously. Like, he loved to fucking train. He loved to stay fit and look after himself. And, you know, towards the later years of his life, that's where he was trying to venture and move over. He was trying to get away from the party scene, and you know, he just didn't get a chance to do so. But he wanted to make an impact on this world, and God knows he would have never have known the impact he created just through his death, you know, and the legacy he left. But in saying that, he was just a normal kid, man. Very, very misunderstood is the first thing I could say. Extremely misunderstood, and an absolute sweetheart, a beautiful soul. It was just a really smart, good kid that just kind of was way ahead of his time.
People they're kind of shocked to think that people are not exactly what they portray. Like, but even myself, I mean, I can speak for myself.
Even you, bro. Like, I knew you weren't going to fucking start this video screaming at me and shit. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Because it would have been funny, but like, you're a normal dude. Like, I'm a normal dude, and we put on a bit of a persona online too. But like, now speaking to you, I could see like you're just a normal fucking guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of people will meet me in person and they'll be like, I had one person come up and it was like, hey, do you know how much you look like this guy named Greg Doucette? And I'm like, that's me. He's like, there's no way. He's like, there's no way. I listened to you talking to this guy for 2 minutes. And I was like, I thought it was you, but then I heard you talking and I was like, it's not him. And Greg is more amped up, more lively, more screaming and shouting. I'm like, dude, that's when I do a video, because I know that people are going to stay tuned longer if I'm an amped up version of myself. I used to be a school teacher and I teach phys ed. I'm coming in, I see little kids and I'm excited. I'm on level 10 because the kids feed off that. And I know that people are going to have more interest in my videos than if I just sit there and do a boring, you know, whatever video. I just play up, amplify everything.
So essentially you're playing an amped up version of yourself. You're playing a character too.
Absolutely.
There's the character Aziz, there's Chest Brian, and now we need an aesthetics crew name for you, Greg. Maybe the viewers can pop some in the comments section. But essentially, you're playing a character too, my guy.
It's funny, as you explained this, you just described me, and you're describing yourself, and I'm like, that's exactly me. And my friends who see me on YouTube and they see me in person, when they talk to me, they're like, they think it's hilarious because they're like, I can't believe you act like that when you're in a video, and here you are at a party, you're talking and you're just this normal guy and you're never like that. And it's like, I don't know how you do it.
Dude, exactly the same, bro. Like, my mates are like they say the same shit to me. They're like, bro, you're a fucking clown. Like, I've seen you on Instagram. Like, it's cool. I like what you do. But it's like, but you're just saying to me. And I'm like, cool. That's what I like. I would like more people to see the real me behind like the facade and behind the persona, because there's many facets to my personality. I
got some really good questions. I got some really good comments.
Shoot me a second one, bro.
A quick and easy one. A cook named Matt, he wants to ask this. Are you Miran Bra?
Mate, I was born Myron.
I'm pronouncing it wrong. And I remember, and I'm like, how did Aziz make these quotes go so viral and so like, how did it become so much of a big thing? Like, it's years later and you can say sick cunt and Miran Bra and all these things, and people are just so excited. They just love it.
I must correct you, Greg. I must correct you. It's Myron. Are you Myron? I'm just saying.
You know, if you've seen my videos, you see I can never pronounce names properly. That's just my thing. I'd love to.
I'd actually like to see you pronounce my name.
Oh, yeah. I actually practiced multiple times beforehand. So we'll see how close I'm going to get. Syed Shavershian.
Not bad.
Did I get any of it right? Syed?
I'll try say the whole thing. Ready? I'm going to say my whole full name. It's fucked up. Ready? Syed Sergeyevich Samuel Severshian. Try that one.
Syed. Samuel Virch. No, I got the first part and I'm impressed with that.
And yours is, I only learned this morning that it's Douche.
Greg Doucette. It's kind of, it's French. Doucette.
I don't feel so bad. We both fucked each other's names.
Some people say Doucette, but it's Doucette. I've heard Douchette a lot, but I've heard douche even more. Ever since I was in university and I did a spell check on my test and I put Greg Doucette, it came spell check, douche, and I passed in my paper, Greg Douche, and the professor marks this, and then my friends are like, Greg Douche, what is wrong? He called me douche for the rest of the year.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Bro, that's fucking funny, man.
So every nickname I've ever had, I've already been through it. I'm 46 years old. I've seen it all.
Dude, those catchphrases, I don't know, man. Like, I can't put my finger on it. I think it was just at the right time when they came in. They were so fucking catchy. And back then, I'm sure you remember, the Jersey Shore culture was popping off in America.
Oh, yeah.
And that was being very hugely popularized here in Australia from Aziz and myself and our crew at the time. We were kind of like the Australian Jersey Shore at the time with the aesthetics crew. As you know, we all had a whole bunch of members. And we all had our own unique names and our own unique looks. And we will be those boys going to festivals, just splurting out those catchphrases like dickheads. Like, we were just absolute trolls, bro. We were just young kids on the scene, just having a laugh, not taking ourselves seriously. And I think Aziz was having such a laugh with it all that it just got so contagious that people couldn't help but fucking say, you fucking moron, bro. Come at me, bro. Come at me, bro was actually derived from Jersey Shore when Ronnie said that to that dude on the boardwalk that tried to fucking, that was just talking shit to him. You're from Staten Island, bro. And then he's like, come at me, bro. Come at me. Like, I'll get Alex to put the episode up here on the screen.
Come at me, bro. Come at me. Come on. Come at me.
Essentially, some of Az's famous catchphrases came from Jersey Shore. They were Jersey Shore inspired, or they were inspired through the MISC. So the MISC is a forum on bodybuilding.com. Not sure if you know. But back in the heyday, it was a big forum, and a lot of slang and catchphrases were born on the MISC, and they transcended from the MISC to Aziz, and then Aziz brought that culture in Australia, and then that just fucking spread like wildfire. And when I actually think about it, it's actually kind of incredible. It's like complete trendsetter. Like, wow, that shit's still fucking wild now with the new TikTok. Like, the Gen Z generation, they're fucking splurting it out like crazy, and it's like they don't really know where it comes from. So I guess now they're going to get an understanding, an idea of exactly where those catchphrases come from and how they work.
Owen Liquid Nitrogen, he wants to know, what does he feel about people still talking to his brother after all these years?
It makes me feel like he's still here. It brings a lot of comfort to me. It brings a lot of pride to me. I guess also the negatives of that is that I'm constantly reminded of him, but I'm at a point in my life now where I actually use that energy and that power to fuel my own achievements in my own life. So it's kind of like damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's always there everywhere I turn on the internet. But at the same time, it warms my heart to know that, you know, my brother was managed to, you know, touch people's hearts in such a way. And it pushes me in my own endeavors, because every time I feel like giving up in the gym, every time I feel like giving up during my preps, I'm like, fuck it, I just want to throw in the towel and give up. Anytime I'm feeling the pressures of online business and, you know, running my clothing line, my supplement lines, my cosmetic lines, I always think to myself, you know, like, what would Aziz think and what would Aziz want me to do now? And it's been my driving force, and it's actually been more powerful than it has negatives. So I love it. It makes me smile, and it gives me something to live for and to push forward for, you know, living on for his memory, in his memory, because I know a lot of people, you know, see him in me. So that makes me happy too. And it makes me smile, man. Because I'll tell you, dude, like, a lot of bodybuilders in the bodybuilding industry don't want to give him the fucking credit. He's like the unsung hero of our time. Like, honestly, they don't want to give him the credit. They say shit like, you know, like, he used drugs, he used steroids. Well, fuck, so does everyone else. The only difference is he was honest about it, motherfuckers. Like, he was very blatantly honest about it. And if anything, he is an imperfectly perfect role model of what you should and shouldn't do. So that makes him a great role model, you know, much better than these role models we see today who lie to their audience and fake and fabricate who they are, because he was real and he was raw in a time when social media wasn't fabricated, where the cameras were just rolling and you're just being yourself. So, and I think that's where the whole appeal comes from, to be honest, being real and raw and genuine. And as you know, like, I'm just putting it back again onto your life. You have accrued, you know, the popularity you have by being real. And that's something that's not being seen these days in the fitness industry. So when people see it, they love it because they respect it, you know. And if you don't have that respect, then you're not going to make that impact. And, you know, in your own way, you're doing that too. You know, we both are.
It's such a great answer, and nobody's perfect, and you make mistakes. No. You use PDs, abuse them perhaps, and it can have different effects in your life.
Shit,
you know, who's perfect? Yeah. Do they want role models to only be people who are perfect? Because they don't exist.
Why
they just
do
don't
role
exist.
Models always have to be virtuous? They don't. You know, some of the best role models are the ones that have fallen from grace and made mistakes, because, you know, and it hurts me to say this, but a lot of, like, Aziz did a lot of things that I don't particularly agree with. Now that I'm a bit older, I can look back and be like, fuck, man, if he just went past that period and got through that time in his life, he would have been a great man. He would have grown to become a really, really, really positive, great role model and influence, who would have probably completely moved past to the party scene and that kind of lifestyle, but he just didn't get a chance to do so. So for me to look back now, it's still hard not to respect the fact that, you know, he was his true, genuine self without any worries in the world. And that has to be respected for how many people and how many young kids he got into the gym, because I don't think there's many other bodybuilders aside from fucking Arnold who've managed to have the impact that he has had in our era and our generation. And that's just me being honest and real with you, dude.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I think he's kind of like the unsung hero on the internet. People don't want to give him the glory. Like, you know, I feel like even Men's Physique in IFBB was made 1 year after he died. Not even 6 months after he died, IFBB Men's Physique was made. I remember before that, bodybuilding was such a niche sport that it was only applicable for certain people, the great genetics.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And then Aziz's influence on the scene, the Jersey Shore influence, the aesthetic look, showed that, hey, look, you can still have a great body and not have to be a big guy and still look awesome and still get attention and still be considered a bodybuilder. And then, boom, out pops WBFF, boom, out comes IFBB Men's Physique. But you know what? Aziz was never given that credit. It was never given to him. It's just kind of like an unspoken truth and silence that everyone kind of knows in the fitness industry, but they don't want to speak about. And it also pains me to see that there's a lot of bodybuilders in the industry that just try to like stay away from his influence and be like, I wasn't inspired by Ziz. I don't know nothing about him. But we all know that everyone knows who he is and his influence and his impact in bodybuilding. The comments don't lie. The views on YouTube don't lie. And the love certainly don't lie. So real always shines in the end, and real recognize real, bro. And that's just what it is, man. Like, the real ones know just how amazing he was and the influence that he had. And that's that, man. And that's a wrap, guys. Thank you for tuning in to me and Coach Greg's interview. There's going to be a part 2 and a part 3 a bit later on. If you guys are looking to get any of the products, Sarms, cosmetics, hair stuff, RU4, 5881, or Greg's Turkestarone, please look at the description and the links and follow that. And thank you for your time, guys. See you next time.